Welcome everybody back again for another episode of the Crime Alley Cast. I got these three. I got Costly and Zubaz. Costly, what is up?
Wondering how you said three.
I a little back behind the
Oh,
scenes,
okay.
behind the scenes jokes.
Yeah. So no, I'm so happy with this game right now,
Ooh.
to an extent.
Ooh, yeah. Zubaz, Zubaz, you've been through a lot lately. What's going on, bud?
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, I live in New Orleans, Louisiana. We just got hit by Hurricane Ida, the largest hurricane to ever hit the state of Louisiana, and it has been rough. I just got power back today after 7 days without it, pretty much, or 6 days without it. Kind of lose track after a while. Resources are really, really limited down here, and if you see me kind of freezing up on stream, I don't have internet right now. We're doing like a Wi-Fi connection and trying to make it work. The good news is I'm safe. All I would say, number one, is thank you to anybody that already reached out to me, checked in how I was doing, offered support, sent donations to some of the charities I mentioned. That's awesome. And two, just as a general kind of, I think a lot of people don't know that this is going on necessarily. Like, it was in the news maybe the first 2 days, but the situation's still really bad. The city of New Orleans still only has 50% power, and the rest of the state is in really bad shape. So I would encourage everybody to just kind of go, and if you have the means to, find a good local charity that's doing good work here, and that would be awesome. But again, thank you to everybody who's checked in on me. And I am just happy to be here, able to even be doing this right now, which is great.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you. And then maybe we'll put like a link somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah,
Get
I'll
links
have
somewhere
Zubaz
for
give
things.
DM me, that kind of thing. There's a lot of places that could use the help right now.
Yeah. Hey, Zubaz, when you send me the description, just throw some links in there for charities too.
There you go.
And
Yeah.
So it's been a little bit. We don't have the boy with us today. He's a busy boy, but not much going on for me. Kasi, yours about the same, or?
So there's a new background behind me.
Yeah,
That's what I've been doing this week.
You can't really see it on the video, but yeah, Kasi's setup in the back.
If you want to see the new setup, stop by the stream anytime this week. You'll be able to see it. I already have a scene set up from when it was kind of set up the other day, where it's like I have where the screen's just like a webcam screen for the whole screen, so people can really see what's going on. But basically, my cousin moved in here, and so we took the opportunity because he wanted to kind of redo the room, because basically this was a garage. This is the same room that I've always streamed from.
Yeah,
so
it looks completely different.
Yeah, so everybody's always made comments about how you can see the garage door sometimes on the side. So basically what we did was we took all of my studio stuff and just kind of moved it a little more towards the garage door, and then just kind of made like a tunnel with curtains, and then we repainted the whole room, so it's new painting on the walls and everything. And I have a new desk coming in tomorrow that I'm super excited for. But everything has come in. It's taken me pretty much since Wednesday to get all this done, just because painting and all kinds of stuff. But it's been real nice, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So.
Yeah, it looks real sweet. Like I saw Kasi had showed me the back, and it looks really cool. The cool comics in the back and the lighting. Well, let's start talking about like the game. I mean we are coming off the heels of August. We're in September now. So what did we think about August? Like how are we feeling?
I enjoy both the reworks that happened in August, both Stargirl, and we didn't get to talk too much about Stargirl last month, but I'm really enjoying Stargirl. I don't use her every day, but it's like when I see her on the enemy team, I have to be aware she's on the enemy team now. Whereas like previous Stargirl was like, oh look, there's an open slot on the other team that I get to kill, And so and then Spectre, obviously, since he's been fixed, he's not as oppressive, but he's still really good.
He's just as oppressive as before to me. On defense, he's easier to handle. Like, it's a little bit easier, but using him offense, no change.
I'm not scared of him, honestly, anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
he's nothing to be scared of. I don't think there's any scary tunes.
My opinion of Spectre, ever since and it's a good thing that they fixed him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining that they
No,
fixed
for
him.
sure.
But it's like he has gone so further down because he's more controllable now. And I guess maybe it just depends on the kind of characters you have. Like for me, I have a lot of reds that are all like RB5 or a lot of blues. I have a lot of characters that can just easily take him out. Yeah. The problem with him before for me was even when I would get him controlled, he would come uncontrolled. You know, just because the way that he worked. And so now it's even taken its where I have him Rebirth 2, and I'm gonna farm his event, but he might not be the primary source of where my tokens are going right now.
Yeah, well,
you know, so it's like I'm gonna farm him to RB5, but I don't know if he's gonna be RB5 after, because obviously I'm doing spoiler first, and then Huntress when I find the finisher. I'm finishing her this month. I looked at the Red Alerts calendar.
Are you taking her to RB6 or?
No. But yeah, by the end of this month I will have both of them done. And it's like my next crystal's probably going to Clayface, and then I know people are gonna laugh at this, but it might be going to Clayface and Nightwing.
Oh, here we go.
And so the reason being, and Josh saw the stream the other day, I got some decent use out of Nightwing, and I literally sent a team to Hawkeye the other day that he was like, actually, that's a pretty impressive team.
Ignoring everything you're saying.
Du Bois isn't here, so we need some terrible opinions.
I will say, almost better in every single way, but doesn't fit my theme. To replace Nightwing in that spot is Lex. So,
Lex is the she's Lex.
But basically, I came up with a team that's you don't want to touch, but you also don't want to leave alone, because across the entire team, there's 3 characters that can do double call assists. So it gets pretty nasty pretty fast. But I'm really enjoying. Spoiler, we'll get to that later. But
wait, but Zubaz, what are you thinking about Spectre? Because I mean, it's a big blue, the biggest blue.
Yeah, and I mean, people remember, like, I was one of the, when Spectre first came out, I bought him, back in 3 years ago, whatever that was, and I posted a lot of videos about how broken he was when he first came out. So Spectre is a character that I've always loved for a very long time. I have a slight issue with him in the game being so oppressive that it's like that goes a lot against how I play. You know, everybody knows that I kind of play with funkier comps. I won't say like anti-meta. There's somebody else that kind of thinks of themselves as being the anti-meta. It's not that. I think of every PvP match as kind of like a puzzle, and Spectre is not about solving the puzzle. It's about just like taking a hammer and like smashing the Rubik's Cube, and you're like, okay, I solved it. Like, that's it. So I'm not having as much fun with him anymore, but he's a character that I care about, and his kit is very useful. I am also going to farm RB5 shards for him next month, but I do think, similar to Costly, that he'll drop a little bit lower on my priority list. I want to finally take up Aquaman. I'm looking at Riddler, which we'll talk about in a little bit too. I'm kind of prioritizing a little bit more of like my favorite characters that I could still use in the game in a unique way. I have Spectre at RB1 now, and like that can steamroll pretty much anything if you want.
Yeah, I'm the same way about Spectre. I mean, I think most people that know me and watch me know how I feel about Spectre, and I go into rants all the time. But I mean, I'm the same way. Like, if you want the match to be kind of boring, just bring Spectre. He's gonna, even if like someone dies, you're gonna win. Like I've had so many matches where it's just all the tunes die, but I'm not gonna lose because Spectre just gonna do Spectre things. But I mean, of the two, like I love Stargirl so much more. Like, I was okay. Like I wanted the Spectre event, the 6th day, because I gotta have the hardest hitting tune. Like I want him. Like my style of play, I just like all the big bops, and so I'm gonna farm him. I'm debating on how much to farm him, because I don't think I've ever farmed any character all the way to RB5, because it's a lot of gems. Like I think I usually spend like maybe 18,000 gems, and that gets me to like RB3. But man, oh man, like to go RB5, it's like 30,000 more gems or something. So it's a lot of gems, and I'm debating if he even needs it. Like I might use him in Siege as of right now. I think he's like, as of currently has right now, unless something crazy happens, he's gonna be banned in the TOL. So I don't want to don't rebirth in him, but I do want him strong because I have a feeling he is gonna pop up in sieges every now and then. Man, if Stargirl had a 6-day, I think I would have. I don't know. I'm loving Stargirl. Like Cassie said, she doesn't use her as much. I'm using her. If I bring Lex, and I like bringing Lex, if I bring Lex, I'm bringing Stargirl almost every single time because she works so well. She allows Lex to go up against Martian Manhunter, Black Flash teams, especially Martian Manhunter. Sometimes Martian Manhunter, Black Flash gets a little dicey, but especially against Manhunter, you can bring Stargirl Lex, and then you're going to be really solid. But like same thing for me, like my rebirth, I don't know exactly who to rebirth now. I've had the idea that like last month I was debating on what to do with my rebirth crystals. Like what am I going to spend them on? Then I ended up spending them on like Black Flash and Azrael because for Siege, shaking his head. For this, I really I'm really gonna try to save them because again, my big thing was about this of the current month is the fact that Jace is here. And that's a future state character, and we all know I've been clamoring for Yara Flor, and this to me is my biggest if they're gonna be bringing out future state characters, they're gonna have to bring Yara Flor. So would they do it now or later? I don't know, and so I'm really hoping it's sooner than later. But I think I might save some crystals for her. I don't know. I'm getting just what do we do?
I'll say two things about that. One, as somebody that was kind of half expecting King Shark to appear during the Suicide Squad movie coming out and everything. I was purposely kind of stashing aside crystals for that, and it worked out great. I have him at RB5 now in the month that he debuted. I'm really happy about it. And you can't do that if you spend your gems in like little chunks and just kind of spread them all out. So that's number one. I think number two, the game really does tie in ways that it's oftentimes predictable about what's coming. And, I don't know anything for certain, but next month is Wonder Woman's 80th anniversary.
Okay.
And if there was a month to bring in a Yara Flor, that to me strikes me as a big deal.
There we go.
DC
I can get my pot reworked finally. Let's go.
DC has been they've got a special like Wonder Woman 100th anniversary thing. They've been doing Wonder Woman Black and Gold kind of leading up to that. It's a big deal. And Aquaman and Green Arrow also have their 80th anniversaries.
Okay.
But they're focusing on Wonder Woman way more. I think for obvious reasons. She's just a bigger character.
Right.
And so if DCL, if there's not going to be a full-fledged like rework or new character or something like that, you're at least going to get some stuff. I would say it's the best opportunity for it next month, but I guess we'll see.
Then I got to start saving if there's an inkling, I mean, I think I have like 26 tokens right now, so I mean, I don't know if I can ever take a character at RB5 out off the bat. Like I don't know, I got the cheddar for that, but
I mean, you could join the club with me and Zubaz.
How many? So
and DeBoy, you'd be the only person on this cast to not do it.
It's probably gonna stay that way because I I only have like 200,000 gems, so I'm thinking like, okay. I saw you. How many gems did you spend? Because Costly, if you don't know, if you didn't see, Costly took up a spoiler to RB3.
Yeah.
How many? And you spent?
I have enough for RB4.
Okay.
Basically, DeBoy did the math for me. So if he gets the math wrong, then I either blame him for the fact that I overspent or that I don't have enough by the end of the month to go RB5. Either way, I get to blame DeBoy for something. But it was 396,000 gems.
Okay, that's a lot of gems.
And that was with which this won't make a difference. But that was with buying 2 of the character packs. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The $14.99 and the $20 one.
Okay.
But that didn't give me enough fragments to like make up the difference of a pack. You know what I mean? So
okay. I did King Shark pretty well, where I only have 21 extra shards of him right now.
That's good.
Like I calculated it pretty well with what I would get out of Siege, out of raids, out of Alliance raids, all that kind of stuff. The only thing is, he will have a PvP reward week this month, and if I wanted to wait, I could have waited to get those like 200 extra
Right.
shards the next month, but you never know what's going to happen. It's you know, like, are you going to
Yeah.
want to play that particular week? Whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't want to leave it to chance.
Right.
And you know,
Are
hey, it
you gonna
worked out.
remember to
Or
play? You know,
Yeah.
like I did with
yeah,
Eradicator.
exactly. You know, that sort of thing. So, you know, you never know. Like, again, like I didn't play the game at all last week because of the hurricane and everything. So it's
Mm-hmm.
you just never know. So I was like, okay, let me just get it done. And I felt good that I didn't like over buy or anything like that in terms of how many extra shards I have, because that's the worst when you have like 100 extra shards of an RB5 character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, or like, you know, way more than that, Cassandra
Yeah,
King. So because she's had events and stuff since, but
right.
um, see with Cassandra, was I think she happened before we had Tapjoy and stuff like that.
Oh.
So when I did her, it was. Let me see if I remember how much it was. I want to say it was between $700 and $800.
Oh my goodness. See, that's not happening. That's
Uh,
not happening for me.
Yeah.
and that was, and to clarify, that was with buying her like sale day packs
Mm-hmm.
and then using all of those gems to then buy
Yeah,
packs.
yeah,
Right,
yeah, yeah.
right.
So it's
And that
like
was like in like 1985 with inflation and everything too. I mean, that's probably like a good $2,000 purchase now. Okay. I hope you use her.
yeah.
um,
Uh, well,
so,
I will say real quick,
mhm.
just on that subject, since with spoiler with Tapjoy and everything, it was only about 250.
Because of all the delays you bought and whatnot. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and then also, but here's a good point. Like on just even me with spoiler versus King Shark with Zubaz, is he got the siege tune and I got the free tune,
Yeah.
and he actually gets awarded more frags than I do. So it's
Yeah, that's a really common misconception. I think a lot of people think that there's more shards available of the login tune, and there's just not. The difference, I guess, is how hard you have to work to get them. Right?
Okay,
yeah,
so
Like,
if if the login tune and you do well in Siege, you're going to get more than, or if you do well in Siege, you're going to get more for the Siege tune than you would for the login tune.
if you
yes,
do moderately well in Siege, like you don't even have to be at the top, moderately well in Siege, and you are part of a good alliance. Because being
Okay.
in a top 50 alliance and
Mm-hmm.
also completing your individual milestones, that gets you 200 extra shards of the Siege tune.
And what did the top 10 in Siege get? Isn't it like 1100 or something?
you get enough
The
for L5
one
top
is
10.
1100.
Oh, okay.
No, no. Yeah,
Yeah, no. So if you get first, you get RB1.
right.
If you get top 10, you get L5, and then it's L4 all the way down to top 150. And then after that, then you start getting below L4.
Okay.
I
Mm.
could be wrong at where the line for L4 is. It could be even lower, but I know that usually I gotta try and get a couple extra. Maybe I got top 150 on King Shark, and I think I had to wait till after raids to go L4, so it might be a little bit higher than that for the L4
Yeah.
cutoff.
Did you buy any of the character packs for King Shark, Zubaz?
No, this was the first month I bought
I'm
character packs
free
in
to
a long time.
play. I'm actually completely free to play.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking.
Uh, yeah, no, I did just to make it easier on myself.
Okay.
But did not that many of them. I think maybe one.
See,
Or,
I've never bought one of those. I've never.
yeah,
See, and you don't need to
I you know
either. Like I bought the one for spoiler just so that I could get her like because for me, I'm having an XP map crisis right now.
Mhm.
So
Are
on
you
my
farming
account,
chapter
like
one during raids?
yes,
Oh, there
that's
it
why.
is.
I
yeah,
mean, but it's I was trying to save as many gems as I
Yeah,
could,
yeah.
and so it's like, but for me, and I did a lot of Alliance boss this last time. More for me, I wasn't like a lot versus like what a lot of the people get to put up. But for me, I normally do about like 150 to 200, and I think I did almost 400 or maybe over 400. Um, so I was just trying to get as much XP mats as I could, and I still didn't have enough for spoiler
Mm, mm.
when she came out. So for me, I bought that character pack because I was like, I need to see where my resources line up because I was doing all kinds of math and I was like, I don't know if I'm right, and I need a visual representation, and I had $15 on my Apple deal, and so I was like, and I'll just do this. So,
Yeah.
So we
speaking of, I'll go for it.
I was gonna say I was gonna move on to our next topic of King
Oh,
Shark.
I was gonna say, speaking of raids, real quick, if we want to talk about August raids.
Oh,
Would you guys? I mean, Spectre was one of the characters in there. He made it real easy.
I think I just used, what was it? Dark Side. No, I used someone in Arcus, a Riddler Arcus, Riddler Superwoman, and then I had to have used Spectre for the green bosses. Spectre and probably Riddler.
I think
or
Spectre
Darkseid.
Solo was what a lot of people were using.
Spectre Solo I used for
Or
most of it.
Darkseid.
Yeah.
And then I, at the time, my King Shark was only RB4.
Only.
And, well, it just wasn't complete, is what I mean.
Yeah.
I did not have him RB5 before the end of raids. And I basically was going to use him in the raid no matter what.
Yeah.
I was like, I made this investment. I'm going to use it, whatever. In comparing to people, because there was a lot of people for like the blue boss at the end on the final day, the legendary boss, that they were only using Riddler Superwoman. And they would put up 175 to 109, whatever it was. With my King Shark, I would do usually about 10 million more than whatever they were doing with just those two.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he made all the difference in the world, but he was.
Oh no.
Oh, no,
Did we lose we lost him? And his interesting pose there. We just lost Zubaz. His internet's like Zubaz said, his internet is off a hotspot. So it's cell phone data. Oh, there it is. He's gonna be froze for a bit. Well, he was just talking about using King Shark, and I was gonna say the same thing about, or talk about it as well. Like when I do my raids, oh no, he's gone, and now that. Okay, he's back. We're getting him back. So he's back. Okay, he's back. But I'm gonna turn his camera off for now, and then we'll. Oh, he's back. Okay, he's good. We're good to go. All right. I was just gonna say, like, when it comes to the raid tunes that you use, like, you can use any, and there's a number of combinations that work. And I always just think that I don't care if, like, as long as I get MVP 50%. As long as I do 50%, I don't care if I do 51% or 80%. Like, I could care less. I don't care. Yeah, like, so it's like I'll do 150 mil, and this one's like, oh well, this thing could do 190. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter to me. Like, it's 2 minutes, same, and it gets me the MVP. I almost sometimes feel like I'd rather like be closer to 50% because I think sometimes someone might see the boss and think, oh, can I steal it? And I don't know.
Yeah,
but.
Yeah.
Well, see, for me personally, and this was the first raid that I ever did the 500 million on Saturday.
Okay.
I'm normally trying to get it done just before reset,
right.
And then I don't have time to hit. The reason why I pushed so hard on it this time is because I knew I had to be hitting Alliance boss like all Sunday, and then that didn't turn out the way I wanted it to because that's the week, or that's the day my cousin moved in.
Okay.
So then all of a sudden I was doing stuff all the way up until.
Yeah.
But for me, as far as like what you're talking about, like the 50%, I actually like getting as much of the health down myself as I can, because there's a lot of times where I just want to clear my board real quick, and I'll end up like wanting the boss to be gone, and I don't want to wait for somebody to be hitting it. You know what I mean? I'm just like, if I kill like 90% of the boss, it's gonna take like literally one person who's gear 11 just to touch it, and then it's it's dead.
Like I'll jump on, like, if I pull my bosses, like what I do, if you're wondering like how I do raids or all, I will wipe my board 0 of 20, and then I'll just go and farm all the bosses I can until I try to keep track a little bit, if I'm at 20 or not. Usually I go back and check I'm like 18 or something, and that's fine. And then I go, and then if I got the legendary boss, I'll hit that one first, and then I'll hit that one first, and then I'll go through and start knocking all my bosses down. And usually, depending on like what the bonuses are and how easily the bosses are falling, usually by the time I get through those, the legendary boss is dead, and then I just collect. I don't have to wait or anything. So, and then I just go to a new fresh board and go farm. But those are my little raid tips, I suppose.
I'll be right back because you guys keep going. You can move on.
Well, I was gonna talk about King Shark, because you had King Shark for raids and you have them all geared up. So how are you liking King Shark right now?
I do like him. he created problems for me in Siege,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't remember if we talked about this in the last podcast or not. But what I like about him is that he's very unpredictable.
Right.
He his out of turn attack, it only triggers 75% of the time, and it is very much on a random enemy. There are no bugs or tricks that like, oh, if you click this tune, it'll land on that
Mm-hmm.
tune. It's not. And the reason that was such a liability sometimes in Siege was because of all the specters running around, and you felt like you had to kill the enemy team in a very specific order.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you have a king shark, so by the end of Siege, at that point, I was working with him as RB3. He would one shot any blue on an out of turn attack.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
White Lantern
I would
Sinestro or yeah.
anybody, it's Spectre, White Lantern, Sinestro. Even a Stargirl, he could do huge damage
Yeah.
to. The issue, I guess, that I wound up having to correct. I was running him under Cheetah,
Mm-hmm.
which is a lot of fun. Strength ups for him just totally take him into another stratosphere. But that was causing me problems in terms of him just killing indiscriminately and messing up my gameplay a little bit. So I switched to using him with Martian Manhunter. It gave me a little bit more control. And that's obviously only in the instances when I had to worry about like a Black Flash or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I would say, he's a lot of fun. He hits very, very hard. His one hits really hard. His two is really good for the turn meter down. I'm fine sharing. I don't know that they're going to fix it because I don't think he's really on top of people's minds. But his two is bugged such that it ignores awareness,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of nice. And I was able to kill a lot of specters like that
Yeah.
because Spectre always hides behind that one awareness. So that was really good to use. His three is incredible. His three is that Kilowog move, AoE, turn meter down within a primary target stun.
Yeah.
That thing is super effective. And I think the real common misconception and why a lot of people wrote him off is, okay, well, he's a bleed tune. He's only going to be good in bleed comps and that sort of thing. And it's just not the case. You're better off using him in like a strength up comp.
That's how I
Or
thought he
yeah,
would be, like a hard
or
hitter.
like a turn meter comp too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Works really, really well with him. You don't need everybody to be bleeding or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people like, oh, he's going to be so good with Black Manta. And I'm like, no, like it's just that bleeds, they just don't work in the meta right now
Yeah.
with so many Terras and that sort of thing. So I'm having a lot of fun with him. I can maybe by the time I get sort of my internet back, and then I think it could be a good feature for when when his PvP week is like a hey, remember this is how good he is, and maybe you
Mm-hmm.
want to grab some shards with him this week. So maybe I'll throw up something like that. Yeah, I mean he's super fun. He's a great character. I've loved him since the '90s. I loved him in the movie. So I'm happy that they put him in. I think that they did him justice in terms of sticking to kind of the lore about what he does. Like he bleeds, he's very hard hitting. He just rushes in and does whatever he
Mm-hmm.
wants without really thinking about it. I think that part makes sense. And then I think, and this is not something that they care about, but I think he has an appropriately uh, powered kit for where he is in the DC universe. So, I think about that a lot. Like, I think about, okay, Spectre hypothetically could and should be super overpowered,
Right. Right.
right? He's Spectre. Wonder Girl probably is like a B minus to C list character that has an S tier kit, and I don't like
Mm-hmm.
when they necessarily have
Okay.
that. King Shark, I think, is like a B ish type character for like a B ish type kit, and
Okay.
I think it matches up really well. So, yeah, so I'm having fun with him. I have no regrets about taking him up as high as I did, and he really does just any red, any blue, one shot easy, and it's a lot of fun to just watch him kind of ping pong off people and do that.
I will say I have him at L4, and for the amounts of like almost no hype I heard before I brought him up. I mean, besides like Zubaz to talk about him and stuff, but it was like, besides that, like I hadn't heard anybody talking about him for the most part. And I took
Yeah.
him to L4, and that entire stream, I was having so much fun. Just he was so much fun to play with. It's like having a red Kilowog in a way,
Yeah,
you know.
that's how
And
I.
then
Yeah.
and it's like even on the note of like the bleed thing, it's like looking at him as a bleeder is like looking at Kilowog as a purger. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes
Like
sense.
they both do it, but like it's not what they're there for. And but it complements their kit to where it's like with King Shark for me, because mine's not RB5, he'll go in with that move and he'll hit somebody, bring him down to low health, and then the blades will finish him off. I'm like,
Right.
that's a cool kit. He's not designed to like then bleed a whole team out over like
Mhm.
if you want to see a whole team bleed, go get Man Bat. You know what I mean? Like go get somebody who can apply a bunch of disease and put them behind a call assister and watch their taunter kill their team.
Yeah.
Like and that's the kind of thing if you want to see a whole team bleed down. But if you want to see like somebody who's just gonna do damage and kill targets, King Shark does it really well. And I was really impressed with him.
Yeah. Here's the thing. And this works well as sort of a summary of August recap. I thought Stargirl was incredible.
Stargirl.
I think Bloodsport is really good. I think King Shark is a lot of fun. Nobody cared about any of those three characters because of Spectre.
Yeah.
That was it,
It's-
how can you compete with that?
it's kind of difficult and like we don't have a spot for this later in the show, so I'm just going to talk about it now. This kind of brings up a thing that's been happening in the game I've seen recently, and I think it's just something that happens because we have so many characters. But it's like there's so many characters that like characters come out and like they're like, oh, like what do they do? Are they any good? Is there any reason I should do anything? And should I even care? Because do they reset my entire team and then get like do they do a Spectre? Do they do a Black Flash? Do they do an Azrael? And it's like not every character needs to be that, nor do I want every character to do that. And it's like we'll talk about that. I mean, I guess we can kind of transition into spoiler here as well with this, but it's like spoiler does her job perfectly well. I think she's interesting. But it's like in the same way that like King Shark does what he needs to do just fine. And same thing, I have Bloodsport, and I think it's kind of funny because I was listening to our last episode, not our last episode, I think it was whatever one we did the recap on when we talked about like Steel and everything. And it's kind of the same thing for me with Bloodsport is I know Bloodsport's good and I haven't used him. But I have him L5 level 80 and I just haven't used him yet because I just haven't got around to it. And I took him L5 today when I farmed up enough legendary essence. And
Wait, you farmed up Bloodsport?
Yeah.
So wait. So you're telling me
You're out of XP.
I know you're out of XP. You're over here saying you're low on XP. You're in an XP crisis, and you're farming up tunes you're not even using.
Like, he was like I max out every tune every month. Every tune that it's in siege. So it's like that's my rules.
Yeah, you're out of XP.
I know I'm out of XP.
Before we fully transition to spoiler talk, I just want to give Stargirl some love in the sense that like she for me like because I use Lex a lot, like I use like when I play PvP or whatever, I just throw Lex out there, I throw teams, and I would always say Lex Flash, name a better duo. And I say that a little bit jokingly. Obviously there's really really good combos, but Lex Flash work amazingly well together because Flash goes so fast, he goes so often, he's constantly healing the team, he doesn't get debuffed, blah blah blah. Stargirl though, now this Lex Stargirl action, like she brings similar Flash things where she speeds up, she gets that turn meter, she goes fast, she gives tons of shields, gives crit immunity, she gives puts strength downs, and that works against I mean, even though Spectre's not strength based, but it works against Spectre. You stack them full of strength downs, stun stick, silence a stick. But she was good against Wonder Girl, Arcus, Azrael. Like she's my new, like if I have Lex, I'm probably bringing Stargirl because she just makes my team better. I think if Spectre wasn't Spectre, Stargirl would have stolen the show. She would have been the rework of the month. She's so good. Like I just love her so much.
Yeah, to that point, just like playing off both your points there. and I've talked about this with Josh, which is that Josh and I played a very different Siege, where Josh used Lex and Stargirl and Spectre and rode that all the way, and I was using like Cheetah, King Shark, Bloodsport, and riding that kind of all the way to the end. And Josh beat me, so his method was a little better, but I finished top 10, and it worked.
Same. We did the same.
And it was really it made me happy that the bonus tunes kind of worked like that worked well. But there was a couple matches at the end where with a lot of people at the top of the siege rankings, they talk to each other, they kind of ask about comps, that kind of thing, and Josh would always come back to me and say like Lex, Stargirl, Spectre, and a fourth. And I was like, okay. And that really would clear almost everything. It was very, very noticeable. So yeah, I thought Siege was really, really good. I thought it was balanced.
I thought it was a good Siege.
Broken. Yeah. Was a lot of fun. But I mean, that Lex Stargirl combo is something else. Because, Lex Flash, you get to full overheal very quickly. Like Stargirl, you get to full overheal, full shield,
and crit immune.
It's you have as much defense as you can get. Basically. So it's really good. And just in terms of Costly's point about there's so many characters, and everybody, we get those Reddit posts every month that are like, is this character worth it? And it's either like yes or no. Nobody's ever like, oh, maybe you might like it for this reason, whatever. It's just like, okay, trash or absolutely broken. What I would say is like, that's where the intellectual property of what we're doing comes into play. Like, I use King Shark, who's like a B character, because I love King Shark, the character, right? Same thing for you, Costa, with Spoiler. Like, she seems like she's a very good character, and we'll talk about her in a second. But you love Spoiler, so you're going to use her. It helps sometimes to remember that we're playing like a DC comic book game, and you should use your favorites, right? Like, like maybe Spectre is super broken, and maybe you should gear up Spectre and Black Flash and Azrael to make sure that you can get out of any jam, basically. But nobody cares if you lose a match in PvP because you wanted to use Aquaman and Mera or something like that. Like, use who you want to use. Don't ever lose sight of that, because otherwise you're just robots playing with like faceless kits, and who cares then?
Yeah, no, for sure. Just to even back up further, what he's saying there is like, even on the terms, because like Josh earlier, you were talking about like where to take your rebirth crystals in a direction. And it's like, for me, and I mean, Zubaz is in a way like he has sort of a theme that he does. Du Bois has a theme, I have a theme, and all of ours are just characters we really like. And it's like
the theme, it's
because here's the thing. Most of the OP tunes, yes, there are some that it's like, is Azrael a little more frustrating and harder to kill at RB5? Yes, but if I have like an L5 Arcus can still just 2-tap an RB5 Azrael. You know what I mean? So it's like, in my opinion, Rebirth, I almost took it as a way to just like, it's like being able to take your favorites and
put a gold border
in front of your roster.
Put a gold border around them,
and then be like, and that's why it's like, I don't know if you guys have seen, because you guys were all in the 1500, the little duel meeting Du Bois have been having. That is the most fun I've had in this game in a long time. So if you don't know what we're doing, me and Du Bois, we're going to eventually put up, we're going to get all the videos together, and we're going to put it up probably on this channel. If not, then we're going to put it up on mine or Du Bois or something. And we're just going back and forth, because we found each other in Wraith, and we're doing like rebirth onlys, and we're trying to stump each other.
Okay.
Like, just with our rebirths. And it's like the most fun we've had, because both of us, and I even like, outside of it, agreed to him. I was like, I won't bring Spectre, and I won't bring like Azrael. Like, I'm not going to bring these ridiculous OP tunes. I'm going to stay within my theme, even though Azrael is within my theme. It's like, I'm like, let's just have fun. And I think like people need to not lose sight of the fun of the game. You know what I mean? Don't get caught up too much in the meta, to where it's like, and that's where I take my rebirth choices, is like, I'm going to rebirth Nightwing. It's going to happen. And the reason is because one of my favorite characters in all of comics is Dick Grayson. He needs to have a gold border. It's a shame that he doesn't yet. Like, and so it's like, that's gonna happen, and it's like, should I take those crystals instead and put him in Spectre, and then Spectre's a little harder to kill, or he hits a little bit harder? Probably, but that's not what I'm going to do because I want to have fun. There's like, what, 150 some odd characters in this game anymore? Like, this.
164, I think.
Oodles of characters.
Yeah. It's like, and we're only going to keep getting 2 every month. So it's like, not every character needs to be Black Flash or Azrael, and that's perfectly okay. And I kind of had like transitioning here into spoiler a little bit.
Well, let's talk about spoiler. Let's do spoiler.
We're right
on that little bit of a subject still. I almost had this week when it came out like on Reddit and everything, when I was doing I'm taking her up to RB3 and I had my stream. I've almost had like people demanding that I justify them bringing her up, and I'm like, just, if you want to bring up the character, bring her up. Like, I'm not gonna, like, do I think she's good? Yes, but it's like I've had people who are like almost like, you need to justify this character for me, and I'm like, I took her up because I like her, and I'm like, but and she's free. I mean, for everybody else, not really for me, but I have taken a Rebirth 3 so far, so most of like. And I took her straight to Rebirth 3. So I tried her at R2, right? She was level 80 elf, or R2, sorry, gear 11.
Yeah, to gear 11.
For me, for Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday was when I took her up. And she even was hitting pretty hard then. Because all of her double damage with invisibility.
That's not a legendary point, right?
Yeah, that's not legendary points. It was all in her basics. So it's like, I got to see how well that played, and wow, is that, I mean, the way that I'll put her damage out there is, before, if she has like no strength ups, she's not going to crit, and there's no invisibility, she hits okay. It's decent. Like, you're not going to expect her to one shot anybody. She's going to set up she's going to bring the health down so that somebody can finish them off. Now, if she crits, her damage is already really good. Like, it seems like her crit damage is super high.
Okay.
And then if she's invisible, everything gets doubled, just straight doubled. Like,
I know you run her with Clayface a lot because again, the visibility. How viable? How does she do keeping herself? Does she turn herself invisible or?
Yes.
Okay, and is that hard to get? Like, is that?
Her 5th passive is a 60% chance to give herself invisibility.
Okay. After every turn, or
after all of her turns,
okay.
Yes. So at the end of every single one of her turns, it's a 60% chance, and it procs pretty reliably, even though it's only a 60% chance. Now the legendary on that point, I will say, I personally believe, I wouldn't say it's bugged, but the way it's coded, it's double gated, and it's real bad, because you need the 60% chance to get the invisibility, and then there's a 50% chance to then gain awareness. But only if you gained the invisibility.
Okay.
So, and it doesn't say like only if in the text. It just says also a 60% or a 50% chance to gain awareness. So you're assuming those are both happening independently, almost like 2 passives, when in fact they're not.
So it's just half the time she goes invisible, she's going to gain an awareness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which ends up being it's a lot lower than 50% when it works out that way. So to the point where like the first 2 days that I had her, like with the legendary points and everything, I honestly didn't think she could stack awareness. I thought there was a bug where she couldn't stack awareness because that's how little she got it.
Right.
That it would be gone before she would get it again. So, but her 4th passive, or her first passive 4th ability, is the one where like she has a 75% chance to give int-ups and 25% turn meter up at the end of her turn to a teammate. Now that ability is real nice, and it almost goes unseen because it's just 25% turn meter up, but does that change up matches dramatically? The turn meter up is working, but it is bugged to where I have not seen the int-ups. I've seen it on very few occasions, almost like it happens every once in a while, but I've seen the turn meter get applied and the int-ups not be there. So whether those got separated in the code somehow, or if it's just bugged.
Now,
something like...
I have a question. I remember the first time I read her kit, and I saw that like it's like a random chance to give, or she randomly gives 25% turn meter up to someone. And then I remember reading that thinking like every now and then I'll be in a siege match and I have, okay, I'm going to do this move and then this character's going to go and do this move and then I can then do that move, like, and this isn't happening all the time, but it does happen. Like, have you noticed with spoiler that she gives that turn meter to someone and that kind of ruins any plans you have? Or do you think that's going to happen? Do you think that's something that could happen in Siege where her giving that turn meter can kind of disrupt your planning of your moves?
So I could definitely see it happening. For me, I'm running with Clayface a lot. So normally what you're trying to avoid when that happens is having somebody that has to hit like a Harley and then they're going to get retaliated on.
Right.
Whereas when you're running her with Clayface, everybody's invisible for the most part. And she works real well in invisibility comps. So I'm not really having that problem because most of the time when I hit somebody, it's coming from an invisible character. But I could definitely see how that could be a problem.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
That was my one fear when I read. I was like, oh shoot, like what if you need this tune to, I don't know, whatever. I mean, I can't really describe it. Yeah, that was my one fear. Because anytime it's this give like a random thing or like King Shark, a random out of attack turn, like it could just, it sounds like good, but something that could disrupt your planning when you're trying to plan these.
Randomness doesn't work that well in Siege. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, just in terms of like overall kind of broad, a lot of people when they're looking at if they should take up a character and stuff, as we just mentioned, is the damage that they're doing, right? And you're describing kind of a lot of the damage here, but let's be a little bit more concrete. If you're looking at the other side and you see a bunch of G11 characters, let's say you see a Spectre who doesn't have an awareness or something, he's G11. Are you going to one-shot him, or like what kind of damage was she doing as you took her up all the way?
So if she is invisible, she's most likely, going to kill that Spectre almost every single time.
On her AoE or
AoE basic doesn't matter. Basic actually does more damage than her AoE.
Okay.
And even on her 2, I've killed. So her 2 gives invisibility to a teammate and true sight, and then it also does damage to a random enemy on the other side, and it can crit. And so when it crits, I've killed at the end of my damage video, there was a cheetah just got destroyed because it was under Deadshot hired gun, and she threw her invisibility over onto Clayface, and cheetah disappeared on the other side. So it's like,
okay,
for the most part, she's going to kill, especially if she crits. So it's like there's a question of like the survivability of the character on the other side up until she crits, and then in any scenario that she crits, she's killing.
Okay.
But especially when she's invisible.
Right.
When she's invisible, she can crit one shot kill a red. So it gets like her reliability on damage, I will say, is about, I would like, if I were to do like a tier system, it'd be like about I'd put her like in a B tier for reliability of damage. But it's like her potential can get all the way up to like what I would call godlike damage.
Okay.
Where it's like if you do like if you get her, one of the teams I'm liking to run a lot is Deadshot hired gun, spoiler, Clayface, and so Clayface gives her the invisibility to start with, so she can just do her AoE right off the bat, and then Kilowog, and then Kilowog throws the empowered strength ups on her, and she will, if there's any blues or reds on the other side, and the red that I was killing most of the time was like a Rebirth 3 Batman CC.
Okay.
So, and she was just one-shotting Cheetah, who was like high Rebirth, and that Bat CC almost every single time on Batman. It was kind of, every once in a while it wouldn't happen. But the thing to note on her like nuke ability or whatever you want to call it with her AoE is if she's invisible, she's also hitting under shields because that's her legendary on her first passive. And on top of that, if she's invisible, this is why she works so well with Clayface, because there's so much of her kit that is predicated on invisibility. She then double calls assists onto a random enemy off of her AoE. So even if you click on a on a red or a blue and she kills that red or blue, because it's a random call assist, it'll just move over to the next available live person.
Oh, that's
And
good.
so like it'll still, you will always get the call assist.
Okay, that's nice. That's really good.
And then whoever you click on, it applies taunt. So most of the time I click on greens or a problem green or like somebody who's typically going to be behind invisibility or somebody who's
Yeah.
going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then her hitting underneath shields, if you get her like to where she's going to crit, she does have a fairly low crit chance. So it's like, that's why it's so awesome when she crits. But because her crit chance is so low, at least it feels like, I haven't like looked at the numbers or anything, obviously, but um if you bring her with Deadshot Hired Gun, she's just gonna smack,
Right.
because she's gonna crit. But if you bring her with somebody who's gonna increase her crit chance, it's better. But I've seen her handle characters like Azrael, who like got a ton of shield but wasn't quite overhealed yet, and she's one shot him with her basic because it went under his shield.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
she's, damage wise, she has really high potential, but it does require other tunes to get her there, or just herself into like subsequent turns. She's not going to do it off of turn one by herself. She will start ramping though, although she doesn't give herself strength ups.
I remember.
And then
I was just saying, I was remember when you were streaming that I was kind of having you. I was like, okay, try her, against some other teams, and I think it was either Carolyn or Historic, I forget who was sending you the teams, but she did well against these like quote unquote meta teams, like the Dark Sides, the Azraels and the Terras and the Bardas and all that. Like she was holding her own. I saw her do enough damage, and you didn't have like. Yeah, obviously you pump her up. You give her the dead shot. You give her the clay. You give her the Kilowog. She's gonna drop some damage. But I thought she did fine on other teams. Like I know you ran her with some teams I suggested, and she held her own. She did the damage. It wasn't the teams that gave you weren't geared around. Like really making her shine with her abilities. But she was able to hold her own regardless of being invisible. I thought she did well. Like I was surprised to see.
I will say what's interesting, because of the damage under shields because of invisibility is on her passive, that applies it to everything, including her 2, which is like, her 2 is just amazing in my opinion, because it doesn't proc retaliation. It can miss, but she's not going to get retaliated because it's a buff move. And so it's pretty interesting. And I've seen it just go right underneath shields because she's invisible, and then if you get a crit, it's just
Right.
It's hilarious to watch a character that's like on the other side, and it's like, oh, that's going to be a problem, like a Spectre. You're like, oh, he could be a problem, and he's behind a taunter that I can't get to, and then like she literally goes right around taunt with that ability and everything too. And so it's just like all of a sudden I'm like, oh, here, let me make Clayface invisible so he keeps his taunt past his first turn, and then as a bonus, I kill Spectre.
Yeah.
For buffing Clayface.
Right.
So it's like it's pretty crazy with that, and she works really well with them. Like one of the, I'll throw out a couple teams I really enjoy running her with. One of them is actually a leaderless team, which is her, Cassandra Cain, Clayface, and Wonder Woman Coda.
Okay.
And the reason why this team is fun is Wonder Woman Coda gives all of them strength ups. You don't really want to touch this team because my Cassandra's RB5 and so is my Coda. They're going to retaliate super hard, and both of them are going to pretty much kill whatever hits them. And then both Spoiler and Coda can just keep dishing invisibility to Clayface and just keeping him taunting. And then it's like you got the double call assist in Coda, you got the double call assist in Spoiler. And then even along that same lines, sometimes I'll like rotate out Cassandra, and I'll put like Nightwing in the lead, or Spoiler in the lead, or like Cheetah, whoever I want to get in there that will kind of help that team in different ways. And then I've even gone as far as like Cheetah, Spoiler, Clayface, Black Flash.
Okay.
That pretty much kills everything. And here's the interesting thing about Spoiler.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, no,
I was just going to ask, have you used her with Mirror Master at all, or no?
No, I need to. I like Mirror Master. I haven't got around to him yet.
Yeah.
He
but
keeps tunes
what's
invisible,
interesting
right?
about her,
Yeah,
Yeah,
he can provide direct invisibility. He's the only toon in the game that can do that, other than spoiler now. I think,
and it's
and
also with shields, so it's almost kind of the same ability except for spoiler
with the
damage on
shield,
hers.
and he could benefit from her intelligence ups. He also works amazing with Clayface as well, so that's kind of one of the reasons I thought of it. But yeah, anyway, go ahead. I
Yeah,
love
well,
you, Ernesto.
I think it'll be interesting.
Mhm.
When they fix the intups, if they fix the intups, it's getting kind of. There's some characters that I'm like, why are these not getting fixed? I hope spoiler doesn't fall into that pile.
Right.
There's two things that I would like fixed on her. The intups for sure need to be fixed, and then if they could somehow get rid of that double gate on her fifth, that'd be great. I know we have quite a few characters that still have their double gates.
Yeah.
It's like but it would ramp up her survivability so much more. Um, because as of right now, if she doesn't get the invisibility and you didn't use like, her first turn to pass invisibility to Clayface, if there's a big boy grain on the other side, she's dead.
Right.
And so but what I'm interested in is once the intups get fixed, that'll provide her with so much more synergy with other characters, such as like Mirror Master. It'll help like with Black Flash on that team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, he will then be able to enhance his damage off of her. And then it's also interesting on that team that I talked about, the Cheetah Black Flash one. Watching Black Flash hit somebody twice with his basic, and then literally just disrupt the entire matchup because now he has that many more speed ups because he hit his basic twice
Mm.
is
Oh, right.
insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it completely changes up. Like I've seen a match go what was going sideways. Spoiler's able to get because she gave herself the 25% Terminator up or whatever, is able to get back around to her AoE, do that. Black Flash gets called, and the entire match turns over.
So what would you say?
Um,
Just a quick. I mean, I don't want you to go too deep into reasoning, but what's like legendary order? What are you looking at? Or where do you think
um,
she's viable? Like, do you think like L3, L4? Or
as of right now, I would say L4.
is her sweet spot like?
That's like her best.
Okay.
Like you can leave the 5 off in my opinion, because the awareness thing is interesting, but at the same time, it's like it's like it's a 50% chance of a 60% chance,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like you're getting it so few and far between that it's like she's going to be invisible anyways.
Yeah.
All it really does is just
Yeah.
protect her that one time when it's like Kilowog did his AOE. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
like she doesn't get killed. Then it is nice. It's just not absolutely needed.
Right.
Now, the only like really the only legendaries I would say she super needs are her 3 for sure, her 4, and then the random silence on her basic is interesting, but you could drop that off as well. So I guess L3 would be the better spot. And then I'm trying to remember what her L2's legendary is. See, for me, I took her RB3 and just
Mm-hmm.
literally went all the points. So it's like
Apply True Sight on the
apply true sight. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, like it's nice, but it's. I mean, honestly, you could do. You could almost do L2 with her. Just do her 3 and her 4.
Just so like a 3-4-1-2-5, something like that.
I would say 3-4-2-1-5.
Okay. All right.
So, in that order, and like I would say, kind of L2 being her like the bare minimum you need, and then her sweet spot being like L4,
Mm-hmm.
because like the random silence is still nice.
Yeah.
Because like when you put the rest of that kit together, it's like she could then like throw True Sight over here, and then do her 3 and apply Taunt over here. So she's like letting this character hit wherever they want, and then everybody's focusing on this one, and it's like it's some interesting stuff. I will say some funny interactions that end up happening off of her AOE when Clayface, because a lot of times you're going to be running with Clayface, and interesting team to throw together that actually works still well with that is running Brainiac lead, because obviously with Clayface you're going to run into a problem of Wonder Girl being a problem again.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you run Clayface, or I mean Brainiac, you are still losing some like your buffs, but you're not getting smacked
Right.
for it. And then also she gives out shields, so she enables Brainiac, and then on top of that, Brainiac then throws out the strength downs. Like there's a lot of interactions there that are pretty cool. And then with the being able to throw out True Sight and throwing the taunt out there, because it's like even in that scenario where you throw out True Sight, that can be purged off by Wonder Girl. What can't be purged off is the taunt that Spoiler throws out there. So then it's like you can open up a target for being stunned by Brainiac. You know what I mean? That you're trying to get like an Azrael out on the side or something.
Okay.
So it's kind of interesting how that works. But interesting little things I found out with her 3. There's a lot of times where Clayface will get called assist, and then he'll just steal that taunt you just threw out. Because he steals he steals on his basic, which is kind of cool because then he gets a taunt for a couple turns, but at the same time it's like, no, I wanted that on that character, so I can kill them.
Right.
And then the only other one that was like a pretty interesting one, which other people have gone back and watched the clip and said that he didn't hit 3 times, but I'm pretty sure he hit 3. But I could see that it was only 2. I did an AoE, and Man-Bat went to town on the call assist. So he went in there, and I could have swore he hit 3 times, like he procced off of the taunt being applied.
Right. Makes sense.
But because it is an active ability, so I think it could apply the taunt and call him.
Yeah.
Because it still would be an active procking a passive rather than passive.
Riddler works.
Okay, so
that's how Riddler works, but that's not how like Jericho or King Croc.
Because it's a passive applying those. Right. Yeah. Right. So she teams up with Man-Bat very well, which I happen to have RB2, so I'm pretty happy about that. There was, I can't remember who it was, but whoever I hit with it, Man-Bat happened to be called for both assists, and then he procced his passive. And so the team just melted right after that because they had like however many diseases that is times 3.
Yeah, I think 24. I think. Yeah, I think that's 24 disease total. So yeah.
Yeah. But I mean,
I know you've been talking a lot about her, but I just want to ask because your name in game for a long time was Spoiler. You got the purple background right now. Like obviously, this is your time to shine. So why? Like why Stephanie Brown? Like what drew you to her? Is it Robin? Spoiler? Like why do you like
it's actually Batgirl, and I had to learn to like Spoiler. So it was like because I never really read her when she was Spoiler until Rebirth happened. So it was funny. Or I guess kind of New 52, Batman Eternal, that area is when I really got introduced to her. I mean, Batman Eternal was my introduction to Stephanie Brown. So which is funny because it's the New 52 book. So, but for me, like the first time I read her, I just got it was during like the time where like I was absorbing everything I was reading so well and really enjoying what I was reading. And then Batman Eternal happened to be what was coming out at the time. It was one of like maybe 6 books I was reading. And I remember just this plot that was going on that was like about like this girl that I'd never heard of named Stephanie Brown. And like she was following her dad, who was like apparently a villain or something. And then like, and she's following him and then she starts like spoiling his crimes and everything. Because they did like pretty much her origin again in Batman Eternal. Yeah. And so I was just like, I loved that story. And then once I started looking into her, I just got further and further into the character. And it's not like, and I'll put her, just be straight out there with I really enjoy the character. She's like on like my top 5, top 10 list around that area. But like, it's not like the same as like my love for like Red Hood and like Nightwing and stuff like that. It's just for me when people like, where a lot of this came from was somebody asked me, right about the time Rebirth came out, and they were like, what characters that aren't in the game would you Rebirth 5 the month they came out? And my answer was, at the time I was reading Detective Comics when that was happening, and so my answer was both Spoiler and Cassandra Cain. And then like 2 months later Cassandra Cain came out. So and so for me, but it's like I've fallen in love with Stephanie Brown as a character because I went back and like the Brian Q. Miller run that they did like just before New 52 is an amazing run. I recommend it to anybody. It's super good. I think there's only 2 volumes. I only have 2 volumes, so I hope there's not like more volumes out there that I missed. And they're actually both behind me on the bookshelf. I absolutely love that run. I love what they've done with her Detective Comics and like how she kind of like branched out from the Bat family for a little bit, but then like with Young Justice got pulled back in and everything. Just everything like, and I can't tell you how excited I was. So this is more comic side of everything, but when in Detective Comics, what was it? Towards the end of Rebirth, it was when they're doing the DC Universe title of it, and Brother Eye. It's when the Brother Eye Detective Comics stuff was going on,
Mm-hmm.
and Brother Eye like shows, like pulls back the veil and shows both Cassandra Cain and Stephanie Brown the Batgirl versions of themselves. And I was like, I got so happy because they were like, wait, we're supposed to be Batgirls, and then like they end up becoming Batgirls, and like now today they're literally the Batgirls in the and I'm just like, I'm so excited what they've done with both of those characters, and Stephanie Brown was one of those characters. And so that's kind of I love the character a lot, and she's one that like I just got an attachment to somehow. I don't even really know how. I just started reading her books, and kind of the same thing for me on. There's a couple runs out there that just stick out in my mind that I absolutely love out there in comics. Like one of those being the Brian Q. Miller run of uh, of Stephanie Brown Batgirl, and then it's like I absolutely love like Dick Grayson as Batman and Batman Black Mirror by Jeff or not Jeff Johns, Scott Snyder. And then I actually don't know who, I can't recall the author of this right now, but the Supergirl run from Pre New 52, the real famous one. That one I absolutely love. There's about 4 volumes of it. It's the one where Cassandra Cain fights her. That one I absolutely love. And there's a couple of those out there, and Stephanie Brown happens to be the subject of one of those runs. And then for me, on the other hand, Cassandra Cain was the other one. And I mean, when that question originally got asked to me, I definitely would have answered like Nightwing and Red Hood if I could, but they were already in the game. So, so for me, this is who they were. And it's actually, in a weird way, has brought me closer to enjoying those characters separately, anyways. So.
So you're going to retire after this month? Is that?
No, because there's one more character on that list.
Oh, wait, so you are going to go World's Finest in Siege then?
No, because she's the free character, so I don't need to. So some people that know that list know who is on that list that's not on in here. I mean, there's more characters that I've said I would RB5 that aren't out there, but of the Bat characters, what I've actually decided to do, because people have been asking me like, okay, when are you going to change your name now? And I thought for a while about changing my name, and obviously it's not going to be this because I'm going to reveal it right here, to like Black Bat, because I want the Black Bat skin for Cassandra Cain so bad. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm just going to campaign for that on Reddit, and then or something like that, and then I will change my name as soon as Spoilers RB5. The stream that I take her RB5 in is the stream where I will change my name to the next character, so that I'm going to be waiting for it, and I'm sure I'll be waiting until the game dies for this character.
Can't wait to see the name. I'm ready for it.
I can't wait for you too, Josh, because it's going to be just like how when I asked for the Black Bat skin, you're going to be like, "What?
Oh, okay."
Who is that?
But let's talk about the reworks that we got this month. I mean, Spoiler's a new tune, Jace is the new tune, but we did get 2 new reworks. We got Riddler and Two-Face, and I just want to quickly say something about Two-Face, because I think I think a lot of people like Riddler a lot, and I think Two-Face is getting a little bit kind of like poo-pooed on a little bit because his kit's a little confusing with the whole like Harvey or Two-Face, and it's a lot to remember. But I'm always, every time I've run and played with him, I'm always surprised kind of how hard he hits. Like his little AoE with his guns, it hits hard. It does a lot of damage. I used him in Siege today. He did a lot of damage. He obviously does way more damage when you have Riddler getting all the agility downs and all that. But I think Two-Face is really good, and you can kind of do what Kasi was saying. I think I had given him that idea, like, you do a Deadshot, you do a Clayface, or well, not Clayface, but for Two-Face, you do Deadshot, you do Kilowog, you do Cheetah, and then you use them all together, and then, Cheetah buffs Kilowog buffs up Two-Face, and then the crit's there from Deadshot, and the next thing you know, Two-Face takes a turn, and my L4 Two-Face, my level 70 L4 Two-Face was almost one-shotting out the gate a Rebirth 4 Darkseid. I mean, so I'm thinking like, okay, if my Two-Face is 80 L5, he's one-shotting a Rebirth 4 Darkseid. Like, he
and there's
can
something
pop.
to note there too. From me doing a lot of damage tests with spoiler, when you do that damage test, it's very significant if you can hit a dark side that hard, even in an all 5 dark side, because every time that you buff up the character that you're trying to get to hit, dark side's buffing up his defenses.
Yeah. And
as you buff up your attack,
and then they still pop. Yeah. So I do actually like Two-Face, because everyone knows I like the big boppers, but Two-Face, I'm not like, I don't think he's bad at all. Of course, his kit's a little confusing. I don't ever really use his 2 that often unless like I need to not attack someone or something. But I think Two-Face is pretty solid. I think he's, like, I always try to think about how, because, we're all end game players here. But how do these tunes work for people who are, they don't have all the other tunes and they're still trying to beat the campaign and all that, like, and I think Two-Face can do a good job. I mean, what do you guys think about Two-Face?
I mean, I like Two-Face in general, but to answer your question right there is like, how do these characters work for, somebody who's still trying to beat campaign? What I've discovered from when I went and did my, I did that other alt account, and I've done multiple alt accounts over the years, is there's a lot of characters that get overlooked at by people at our level that are like, oh, whatever, he doesn't do enough damage, that is like a nuker for, somebody still trying to go through the campaign. And it's just, and a lot of times in this game, because of the way this game does their character releases and their reworks, it's a lot of just right place, right time for your character. You know what I mean? To where like there's a lot of people there's probably a good chunk of people that are going through the campaign right now and using Steel to finish it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Steel's L5 level 80 for me, and he's sitting in my hero list, never being touched. But overall, Two-Face, his kit is wonky. I will say that it's a little all over the place and doesn't really. Like, it helps itself, but it's like, it's Two-Face. I don't like blame the devs here at all, because this is a hard character to nail down.
Yeah.
Because how do you do the 50% thing while still not just making them trash? You know what I mean? Like, because nobody wants a 50% chance to do anything, and it's like, but in order, like, really what you would have to do is make both of the things on either side of the 50% chance really worth doing. And most people are going to disagree with what the other thing is if they're wanting the other one. So it's like, it's going to be hard to please anybody with Two-Face.
Yeah.
But they did a good job, I think, on his damage with his AoE.
Yeah,
and even with the damage with his basic.
Yeah, his basic is solid too, and he has the call assist.
He can hit really hard. Yeah, and so I think that's how they tried to, like, mend that wound, I guess you could say, with the whole 50% thing, is they at least made him hit hard. And I think he's being looked over for that a lot, because a lot of times, and we see this in like a lot of different chats we're in, a lot of times people will look at a paper kit and just be like, here's my judgment off of the kit. Or I mean, we've even seen in some scenarios people see the description of a character, and and so but it's like, man, you gotta do some like playtest with some of this stuff, and I get that like not everybody has the resources to bring up all these characters, so it's like that's what like we're here for, or like different YouTubers and stuff like that. You know what I mean? We're gonna get our opinions. Now there are gonna be some months like Steel, where even though I put the resources in, I still had no opinion because I didn't use him. But it's like there's gonna be those times, but for the most part, like I was just on YouTube today looking at the DC Legends segment. If you want to know something about a character, all you got to do is click on that, and you're going to find somebody talking about the character, And so it's like, it's one thing to look at a kit and just kind of pass a judgment, but it's like, go look at what he looks like when he's hitting somebody, or go look at what his damage output is. It's something I'm going to try to do.
too.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like add G8, add G9. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, and it's like
G10 and a half.
one of the things I'm gonna do, and I might even do something like I just heard that. It just clicked in my brain. But one of the things I might actually do is I put out that damage deal for spoiler, and I got a lot of messages from people being like, "This was really good. Can you do this again?"
Mhm.
Like for more characters every month. And I'm like, yeah. And something I might even consider doing. It'd be a little tedious, but doing it at each like gear level,
Right, right.
But it's like that wouldn't work really well because then it's like I got gear 11 characters buffing up, but I guess it would. I don't know. I'd have to see how it plays out.
But
But yeah, so
well,
I've talked enough
Zubaz.
about Two-Face Zubaz. What do
Yeah,
you?
I mean, give me your Zubaz and then kind of start talking about Riddler too.
So Two-Face, I'll say like he's not a character that I care about all that much. I thought Harvey Dent is great in The Long Halloween, and then after that, I
That
never
was so
really
good.
cared for him that much. And I'm talking about the comic. I actually haven't watched the movie
I watched the movie. The movie's good.
Which, yeah,
Movie's
I mean,
really good for anybody
yeah,
that needs to go watch
I'm
it.
excited for it. So, but yeah, so I love him in that storyline. But outside of that, I've never really cared for him. I did gear him up, and I have used him a little bit. I'd say one of the biggest drawbacks for me is he just slows me down a lot because you have to really read every one of his moves almost every time.
Every single time.
Yeah, like some of the characters, you know them so well, you know exactly what it's going to do. Even if it's RNG, you're like, okay, I know that it's only a 75% chance that this is going to happen. For him, it's like, okay, I got to look who he is. I got to sit. So it slows me down a lot. I don't love that. I will say, I'll reiterate this. This is something that M4 and I discovered. Usually once a month, I'll go on M4's stream when we get the reworks, and we do what's kind of called bug hunting, where we just play every scenario with them and try to see what's wrong with them or what's right with them in a lot of instances. And there is a really, really cool and unique thing going on with Two-Face's kit that I think has major implications for how the game works and how the game could work in the future. Which is if you look at Two-Face's second passive, it's a passive that triggers whenever an ally crits. If it's Harvey, he purges 5 debuffs, great, from an ally. If it's Two-Face, he has a 50% chance to apply turn meter down to the target. So what does that mean? Like, how do you break all of that down? Because that's a lot to think about, right? So first of all, ally also includes Two-Face. The word teammate, when you see that in kits, that means every character other than the one that you're dealing with. Ally includes the character that you're talking about. Okay. So this happens when Two-Face crits or when anybody on your team crits. And it says apply 25% turn meter down with a legendary of doubling that turn meter down. So it's one of those skills like a Kilowog or a King Shark or something where you have a primary target, right? If he crits and you've clicked on who you click on for his AoE, they're going to get 50% turn meter down or at least 25% turn meter down. And that's huge, right? That's already really big. That's a sign that I think in general people should get in the habit of whenever they're doing their AoE, just clicking on who you want the impact to be on the most, as opposed to just clicking the bottom character, which I did for 3 years when there was no such thing as primary target. But more than that, now makes that skill a primary target for all of your allies. So if your ally is one that does an AoE, let's say you're doing a reverse flash or a Castaway Green Arrow or something like that, their AoE, if it crits, now has that primary target thing where the character that you click on turns down 50%. It matters who you click on. That's crazy.
Yeah.
We've never had a move like that where a character's passive modifies the existing move like so much of another ally on the team. It takes a non-primary target AoE from one of your allies and turns it into that new mechanic that we've had for the last year or so. That's wild, and I hope that they do a ton more with that. And again, I think the biggest lesson to just take away from it is, especially when you're playing with Two-Face, but in general, try to get in the habit of just when you're doing an AoE, pick the right tune.
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts on Two-Face. We'll segue right into Riddler.
Mm-hmm.
Riddler, unlike Two-Face, Riddler is one of my all-time favorite characters in comics, heroes, villains, whatever. I've collected a ton of Riddler covers. I have 2 different pairs of Riddler Converse shoes. He's one of my all-time greats. So I had him Rebirth 2 before this month.
Okay.
And that's one of those situations that I love. Reminding me of the one guy, Mac Wynn, who had Stargirl Rebirth 5 before last month.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you feel like you hit the lottery when the rework comes in, and it's great.
But
So,
wait, do you get scared though? Like, what if they make him worse? I mean, they haven't done that. I don't think they've
They
ever
haven't
made
done a
it.
bad job
Yeah.
on work like that since like Dr. Fate.
Right. So,
Like-
There's been a couple. Blue Beetle's a big miss, people. But I think we remember the misses because there's so few of them.
right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It stands out to me. So it is a risk, but and I'll say this too. I think there's different sizes of the jackpot, right? Like I had Vixen at a very high level, and they did her rework back with the Birds of Prey movie, and she was better, but she wasn't like OP or anything. And I was like, okay, this is nice, whatever. Stargirl last month, and he's sitting on her at RB5 already. He feels like he just won the lottery,
Yeah, that's
right?
huge.
Yeah. I feel, same thing with a Spectre or something like that. For Riddler, I feel like I have a high-end lottery winning in terms of the improvements that they made to him. I'm really excited at the way he turned out. To me, one of his biggest flaws in his kit is that you wanted him to get hit, but he always had awareness. And they replaced that awareness with death immunity, which changes everything.
Right.
Now he can get hit. He can still do his debuffs, but he doesn't die. That's huge. So I think the passive changes that they made are really great. I think I have been using him as a Spectre counter, as a Black Flash counter. He's not perfect. He's not overpowered or anything like that, but I think he's a really, really fun tune to use. He's a stun machine, and then just the damage that he does and the damage that he enables your team to do by stacking so many agility ups. I'm not a player who looks for like pew pew and I feel like I'm doing heavy damage, but when I use Riddler, my matches go way quicker because I'm automatically doing that damage.
Yeah. I will say with Riddler, I'm really enjoying Riddler. But something that I've noticed, and like it plays into what you were talking about with Two-Face, with like the primary target thing with the crit down, or the turn meter down and everything, and then even like some of the stuff that like Spoiler being able to do damage on like her 2, and a lot of the stuff we have coming in, or like the double damage when invisible. There's a lot of these characters that are getting pretty cool things that have not really been in existence of this game yet. You know what I mean? Where it's like, and I think that's like, if the devs watch this show, which I doubt they do, but if they do, keep going in that direction, because that makes the game so much more interesting. When it's like, it's going to make the game more complex, which is a good thing, I think, in my opinion, because right now it's like you can literally walk into, like, if you wanted to, and like we were kind of talking about this earlier, but if you wanted to, there's a team out there that you could put together that will pretty much kill almost every single team, and then there'll be like maybe 1 or 2 teams that can't beat, and then there's a different team that'll beat both of those. And it's like you don't gotta really worry about anything, but it's like I think it would be more interesting in scenarios where it's like you gotta think about like that character being teamed up with this character and how that'll happen to you. So it's like Riddler plays into that, where it's like he can just do some of his moves twice, or like some of his stuff is just doubled, and then it's like the turn meter down with Two-Face and like all this stuff. It's so interesting, and I think they're doing such a good job. Like this month, I'm giving them a round of applause for, not just because I got Spoiler, but like there's some interesting stuff. There was one bad thing this month. We'll get to that in a little bit, but it's like there's so much interesting stuff. And then like I don't know too much about Jace yet because I haven't played with them or anything. But I guess there's something about like retaliation against turn meter effects. That's also a good direction to go in. You know what I mean? Like so it's like I just want to say like all that stuff's real cool, and I think it's good. But Riddler, I'm liking him a lot. Like the being able to throw a taunt out there, I think it makes much more sense again for him to get the death immunity and the true sight rather than like the awareness. Um, and then I think he's going to be real good in raids too because he'll be able to, like, if you just do like a him and somebody else, he's going to be able to keep like them or he and whoever it is like alive because of the death immunity. And that's one of the problems you can end up sometimes running into is like Superwoman gets killed by like certain bosses and stuff where it's like Riddler's going to be able to stop that from happening, so that'll be real
Yeah,
nice.
I mean, on my stream I do the reworks. I show them off right when they come out. Riddler, I only had him L3, and I guess I took the wrong legendary point. And even Zuba was there, he saw it. Like I wasn't very like big on him at the time. Like I was playing him, I was like, he's okay. He wasn't really doing what I wanted him to do, and it's because I didn't have the agility down thing. I think that I didn't take that legendary point, and after getting into L4 and using him more, I'm really, really liking Riddler. I like what he can do. I do like him against Black Flash. Like those retaliations work out well. When he does stay alive, a lot of the times he'll be 0 HP, and you're just like hoping like that. Don't attack him when that death immunity falls off. But I think Riddler is doing well. I think he's the better of the reworks. I mean, I do like Two-Face a lot. I do, but I do like Riddler. I think Riddler can fit on more team comps. Like you could plug him into anything, and he's probably going to do you real good. Just because the meta right now, there's so many AOE moves out there that he's going to be retaliating. If Terra's not there, then he's really going to shine. It's I'm liking Riddler. I think he's great. I love the throw the taunt thing out. You can get around other characters that are taunting. That works out really well with his true sight. I'm on the Riddler train. I like him a lot. I mean, I remember I had a match. I was doing red alerts and I ran into a Riddler and I just didn't think much. I was like, oh, just Riddler. But my red alert team got annihilated because of that freaking Riddler. And I was like, all right, so now, gives me more, I have to think about him. Okay, there's a Riddler there. Pay a little bit of attention. You don't want to get debuffed too much. But man, Riddler, he's nice. I think they did a great job. I think they did a great job with Two-Face. I think they did an amazing job with Riddler. They're doing some good stuff right now, the WB is. And to give them more praise, good or bad, I don't know what the opinion is for everyone, but they came out with what everyone's been whining about for how long I can remember is they got the Batman Bat CC rework, and I think it's Batman month themed. But what what do you guys think?
Let Zubaz go first.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk a little bit. I mean, one, I think there's always a risk in begging for a rework, as we've seen. But in general, I think that it's cool that they're doing this Batman month. Goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning of the episode, with you can kind of look ahead and think about what's coming. So Batman is, I think, September 18th is like Batman Day. They celebrate it every year. If you go back and look, September is always a bat-themed month for DCL. So you can kind of expect that every month. And this month, they gave us Future State. They gave us a very recent character in Stephanie Brown, or relatively recent character, I should say. We've got two of the all-time classic villains in Two-Face and Riddler. And then we got Batman CC. On him, he's never been a character that I've used that much. I love Batman. For me, if I'm going to use Batman, I'm just going to pick World's Greatest Detective, who I think just has a lot more utility. And in terms of what they did, I don't want to pass too much judgment on his kit because I've never cared for it that much. I've never been like, okay, the silence, the big drop kick, whatever. I will say that I am pleased that they released the kit on like Wednesday, and yes, there were bugs, and yes, it's like, okay, we wish that they would somehow be able to do these bug free and stuff, but nobody knows exactly how much time they have to do this, etc. But M4 and I discovered the exact bug on Wednesday, and I think by like Friday, the crit damage bug was fixed. They also responded to the community who posted a lot about how the damage on it was also low. they upped the damage as well. So regardless of what it is that you think exactly about the kit, what the Batman CC rework in general shows us is, one, they are still tying themes to
Mm-hmm.
months. Two, that they're responding to the community. This is something the community has begged for a long time. And three, when they have bugs or damage errors, they are listening and they're following up as quickly as they can.
Yeah.
That's all helpful for me. So even if you get nothing, even if I never use Batman Caped Crusader in my life again, I'm happy that all of those things happened.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so overall, I'm not exactly like I can't say I'm not happy with the rework. Like I'm happy the rework happened. It does suck that like in some scenarios you pretty much needed him to crit to be able to like actually kill a blue with his three, which like basically what everybody's always wanted is just a turn one assassin, like blue killer. That's what they wanted out of Batman. Now, I think what they did actually makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they turned him into a true sight counter with decent damage, and I mean decent. I'm like he's borderline like real good damage. Um, and he and he's just like a silence king. Like he just throws silence out all over the place, and he's gonna get his turns real fast. He's gonna keep himself invisible. He's gonna sit there and like, you know, he can be a problem for you now if like he's not gonna be like an Azrael type problem, which I think is one of the things that kind of brings down on him is the existence of Azrael in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And the state of Azrael is kind of what brings this down a little bit. Is the fact that like you look and Azrael has like half the kit that they wanted for Bat CC,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like it's a little unfortunate that he doesn't have it. But I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, well, there's three Batmen in the game, right? And you would want each of those Batmen to be, and that's not including like Jason and Terry and any of the other like Batmens, but there's three Bruce Waynes in the game. I should put it that way.
4.
Um, is there four?
Batman Who
Very
Laughs.
funny. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's
Just
I
go.
okay. You know what I mean. Yeah. And so it's like the TDK version is very specifically supposed to be what it is, right? Like it's
I
him
literally
in a
have
suit.
no idea what TDK does.
He counters Harley sometimes. That's about it.
Okay.
When he feels like it, other times he just sits there. So, but it's like World's Greatest Detective is like he is like the what I would say is like he's the Justice League Batman. You know what I mean? Like he's going to be the leader, and he's going to throw out like buffs here and help people get to their turns, and like and heal and take away debuffs and stuff like that. Whereas like so that leaves Bat CC to be like the martial artist like fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that doesn't say nuke turn one. That says like it makes sense that like the taking away the true sight would be like him throwing down a smoke bomb. You know what I mean? And it's like, which is what he does in his animation. And it's like, or like him like really being able to like silence characters and stuff like that. I see that as like the martial artist like ninja Batman. You know what I mean? And here's the thing, I don't know if we would be happy with like a turn 0 assassin or like a turn 1 assassin, because then people would just like he wouldn't be able to bring blues to a Bat CC fight. You know what I mean? If he had true sight, and it's just like, oh, okay, well if I let them take any kind of turn, and then it would just enhance the speed meta. To where it's
I
like,
mean, I think that's what they tried with Shiva, and
yeah,
that went about as well as it did. It was
Yeah.
like people wanted Batman CC to be like an amped up version of Shiva, and it's like we have Shiva, and she's appropriate. Sometimes she can do exactly what you want and kill Black Flash out the gate, and sometimes she doesn't, and that I think is a good balance of that.
Yeah.
And
hey, I think
people wanted that Batman CC to be Shiva without the balance, and
Yeah.
that's we don't need
I,
that.
I think it makes sense. The only world where it would make sense to have a turn 1 like assassin like that is if the game got its like revive characters back, like in the to be able to be used, because it's like And even beyond that, it's like you would need what this game doesn't have is targeted reviving. You would need targeted reviving. So I would need to be able to like take a character and be like, oh, Spectre died, target revive Spectre. You know what I mean? As like somebody's 2 or 3 or something. You know what I mean? Like Zatanna could like pull somebody out of the hat or something, and it'd be like a revive or something. I don't know. You could do some. I know Zubaz was like that wouldn't fit her kit. I'm like, I'm just saying there could be somebody who could be like a healer. You know what I mean? They could be like they could do targeted revive. That's the only area where it would make sense for the game to allow you to just simply take a character off the board because somebody is on the first turn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like beyond that, and that's why like I've seen a lot of people saying with spoiler, they're like, oh, like she has the same problem Bat CC had where she doesn't start with invisibility. And I'm like, yeah, but she plays into the team, or you can get her to start with the invisibility. And there's even a good team up this month, like Spoiler and Bat CC. Spoiler will literally use her too. She'll damage somebody when she does it, and then give True Sight and invisibility to Bat CC. You know what I mean? And so now he's ready to just that he has everything he needs to be able to be your turn one taunt or your turn one assassin.
And I think
I don't know if she goes before him or not.
I think a lot of people with this the big kind of like people got upset about Batman CC was you looked at the old kit and his one thing that he did well was when he dropped that big drop kick, it did massive damage. You always had to like always kind of keep track of when you're fighting him or when you're using him, you want to drop that big kick. And I think a lot of people are like, oh man, if only you could, have him be invisible right from the get-go. And then you get this new kit and boom, he's invisible from the get-go. You're like, yes, like now this is going to be it. And then you find out that drop kick's not the same drop kick as it was. And a lot of people are just like, oh my God, they only had one job, which was to give them the drop kick and they didn't do it. And so now Batman sucks. I mean, there was a little bit of bug damage with his, like how he did it and all the crit values and like that, but they fixed that and it's good. But I think because of that initial, like that jump on about that, like you kind of disregarded the rest of his kit. Like, like that turn meter when he does his basic, the silences he dishes out. I mean, we've seen there's a cheese team running around with Batman, with like Darkseid Batman, something you can just have Batman go nonstop. So I do think Batman is good. Like, I think if this was a kit that if there was no Batman CC and they introduced this Batman, I think people would have been like, oh, this is a neat Batman. He can do some stuff. Like you would have been happy with him. But just that initial, like people getting so upset about the drop kick is what kind of made people really sour about him. But I think he's a good character. I mean, again, I never used him a lot before, but when I did, I relied on the drop kick. But now, I mean, I might try to sprinkle him in, but he doesn't really fit my play style, but good tune.
I think it's just a perfect example of the kit not matching the expectations because we maybe set the bar too high.
Oh yeah.
Like you think of somebody like Amazo when that happened last year, where people right away when they announced Amazo, they're like, oh my God, he's gonna have the ability to copy all of the buffs on the other team, and then he's gonna be able to steal their moves, like making up brand new mechanics and stuff. And then he debuted and he's got like an okay kit, but everybody was like, trashed here because we had set these unrealistic expectations. I think that's what happened with Cape Crusader as well.
It's but he's still a good tune, like again, if you're a newer player, you're going to have this ability to silence a bunch of people. You're going to be able to get some good turn meter. Like he's going to do you real good.
I mean,
and he is super farmable.
Yeah, super farmable.
Here's an example just already in the game of something that like you want to talk about, like, oh, Amazo, Superman. Like, there are still people to this day that are like, Superman's trash. I'm like, Superman is so annoying. What do you mean? Like, I was like, Superman, like, I feel like I'm fighting Superman when I'm fighting Superman. And like, when they fixed him, and I know it took a long time to fix him, but when they fixed him to where he was stunning with his one and everything, like, it just got so much more worse. And it was just like, oh man. And it's like, but there's still people that you'll see every once in a while that come out and they're like, Superman's trash. And I'm like, why? Because he's not invulnerable. Like, I mean, like he's
Superman was when I first played the game. Like, I don't know if you guys remember when you first start the game, you play as Superman, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I was a big Superman fan. Like, I like Superman, and I just always wanted to play with Superman. Like, you start the game, you don't have Superman, and it took forever to get Superman. And even then, I don't think you unlocked him till like way later. Like I don't think the amount of shards you got made him viable to do anything, you know. And when I finally got to use him, and it was like, oh, you get to use him, and Superman's like, whatever's. But like,
I remember,
poor
I remember when I was
Superman.
playing, he had a Wraith PvP week, and I was like, I can finally get him up to a viable level.
Yeah, you can finally.
And then I got him, and then about that time, it was when like there was other characters out that were much better, and it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But like since his rework, he's gotten better. But it's kind of the same thing with CC. Is like the expectation was obviously way too high.
Yeah.
But I'm happy they did the CC rework. Like it, I think it's actually a good rework.
Yeah,
like,
it's good. It's
I
solid.
think I think most people are just like, they're just like, oh, the 3 doesn't hit hard enough, and I'm like, okay. And I don't know if you've heard of this thing, but there's this thing in the game called Rebirth.
Yeah.
It'll like if you want it to hit hard enough, take him to RB5. We all know everybody has enough fragments for it. All right, so like.
So all right now,
I will be taking him RB5. I only have enough for RB4 right now, but I will be taking him RB5.
so now that you know the Batman CC was everyone the one everyone wanted to get reworked. Who do you think the next one is? Who's like quick, Costly? Give me your pick. Who do you think should be the next old
Who
character?
I want, or who?
The old, like an old original OG character that
Zatanna needs
Zatanna.
to be.
All right,
Zatanna needs to be, but personally, I would love Pot to get a rework. But that's just because I have
Still a
RB5
pop business.
and to go on to like what Zubaz was talking about earlier about like feeling like you win the jackpot. I will, as long as her rework is good. That month she finally gets reworked. I mean, she's been reworked before. Don't get me wrong, I understand that, but it's like, she was like one of the first reworks, and so it's like it was so outdated now. And like her kit's even still good. There's some stuff they could do to upgrade it. She just needs a stat boost. I mean, honestly, what this game should start doing, because they kind of showed us this month they could do 3 reworks, is I would almost say 3 reworks is almost needed with the amount of characters we have now, or just like 2 reworks and 2 stat boosts or something.
Yeah,
you know,
people
there's
have been asking for that for a long time.
Yeah.
I think it's about time that they start considering it, because again, we had that number earlier, but was 150 something characters.
164, I think we're at.
Every time I say the number, it goes up by 10, I swear. So it's like there's so many characters that it's like you're never going to keep up with the rework cycle.
So Zubaz, who's your
You know, Zatanna's kind of the obvious one. I do already have her RB5. There's 3 of us in the game that have her that high already. And, you know, she obviously needs it. I'm actually going to throw out a different answer though, which is I would almost rather see Emerald Archer, Green Arrow.
That'd be a really
only because I worry about, you know, what exactly they would do to Zatanna and everything, and I don't know. I also just I don't know that there's a great opportunity to do it like anytime exactly soon. Green Arrow's got his 80th anniversary coming up. Like Zatanna's something that they could throw in sort of anytime, and I think maybe give Green Arrow a little bit of precedence there. But you know, obviously, I love Zatanna. She's one of my all-time favorite characters, and I do have her Rebirth 5, so I would love that. In terms of characters that have already received reworks, I would just say my favorites again, like Aquaman and Swamp Thing. Aquaman, King of Atlantis, I think needs a few little fixes, and he could be a lot better. And Swamp Thing, like Princess of Themyscira, she was somebody that was reworked very early. And it's crazy when you go back and you look at those early reworks and you see how power crept they are now. Like Swamp Thing does nothing. You know, he does a lot with his crit work, and he can hit hard, and he's got a lot of utility, but just the scale that it's on right now is just not good enough to keep up.
Well, so. it's like even on the subject of power creep, it's like we're going to talk more about like Siege in this next episode, but day 1 of Siege, Alan Scott, like that dude used to smack, and like now he's like tickling the greens, and I'm like, man, it just there's like some of these characters that just get put to the back and you don't think about it, and then like all of a sudden you pull them out and it's like, dude, this dude used to just waylay people at L5 or even L4, and it's like he's barely like like he still can hit pretty hard, but it's not like it used to be. And and so it's like, before we continue on with the last little bit of Batman month, November is anniversary, right?
Of Green Arrow
Of
and
no of DCL.
Oh,
oh
November,
yeah, November, yeah.
So I know this is such a far-fetched idea. But what if they did? What if they did just like they've got to be working on something, right? I mean, they've been bringing out new content this year. Don't get me wrong. Like
G12's happening.
What?
G12's happening. I said it was going to happen in the summer, and I think it's going to happen now.
I think that's the balance patch. I think we're going to get Gear 12, and I think what they should do, if they're doing that, devs, listen, all right? What you should do on top of that is every character that was in the game when the game came out deserves a rework that month. No new characters.
Wait. Every character that was in the game when it came out.
Like campaign characters.
It's a lot of characters, costly.
I know, but I'm saying no new characters, Gear 12, and then all those characters get reworked.
I think you're asking for too much.
That's
a lot to ask for. I mean,
I think this is DCL 2.
Yeah.
Is what you're asking for.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Rework
or just
50 characters.
Or the ones like since Bat CC just got done. You know what I mean? No, it's not 50 characters. It's like, no, when the game first came out, that's like 15.
Was it 50? No, I think it was more.
It was like 40.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters.
Well,
Cusses, but no new characters, so that makes it okay.
The starting character.
The campaign trail.
So not CC because we just got it, but like Zatanna, Emerald Archer,
Cyborg.
Bane, Cyborg, you know, like all the ones that you first get when you're first coming up, you know what I mean, that haven't been reworked this year, obviously. I think would be interesting to get. And like, we don't need, I could do without a month of brand new characters, you know what I mean? Like, I think they could do something like, especially that month, that's the one month where I think they could get away with being like, our profits are just going to be from like people being hyped that we're celebrating this game. You know what I mean? Yeah, where it's like people would be buying the rework packs and stuff like that.
I'll say right now, there's 20 characters on the farmable list. So on the campaign trail. So I mean, you're like,
okay,
I like that you're like, just
just do the first like, just do like the what is it, like 5 or something, 3, 4, I don't know, or just use Zatanna and Emerald Archer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, since we're doing insane predictions for new content, let's talk about the new content that we actually know is here for Batman month. We have this Batman event. You know, what are your hopes and or expectations in terms of both what we're going to get and what the rewards are looking like?
I think it's going to be similar to the Nightmare event. I don't think it's going to be anything as difficult. Is it like you can only use Bat Family characters for this thing?
Yes, I'm so excited.
I feel like you're so excited.
I can't wait for SBO, Uncanny, and me to be the only people that can finish this event. Right?
Okay, here's where I'm gonna burst your bubble right now. I think this is gonna be such a cakewalk of a challenge that it
should be.
It's gonna be like, it's gonna be so easy to beat. I think I'm gonna be, because I have enough Bat Family characters. I'm just gonna walk through it. I think G11 will be more than anything. You just pick 4, press auto, and go. I think what's gonna be more exciting about it is just, you know, rebirth crystals. Are we gonna get those? Are we gonna get, you know, some shards? Maybe some character shards. Maybe of, I don't know which characters it would be. You know,
Batman Caped Crusader, which nobody has.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I would. Can you imagine if they do give us Batman CC shards? If they do that, that's going to be. This is terrible.
They love to give out Caped Crusader.
It has to be something. It has to be not that. Like, I have to believe they won't do that. I'm gonna give, like, they're not going to give out Batman CC shards. Like, but you know, what are they going to do? Like, I think we're going to get some nice. I think it'd be rewards similar to the Nightmare event. I think it's going to be you know, an easy event. I think it's just a way to say, you know, hey, Batman month, go to your comic store, get some Batman stuff. Here's a little gift for you guys for playing. Like, I don't think this is going to be anything like groundbreaking. I think it's just like a fun little, here's something for you guys to, you know, go celebrate Batman.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it will be an event that most people can complete easily. And as I think it should be, because here's the other thing. Keep in mind, we still have the Nightmare event this month. right? So it's not like we didn't. It's not like this is in place of the Nightmare event
Right.
or something like that. So I don't think that they are going to go to town with like rebirth crystals. Maybe one, maybe
I think
reaching
they
the
might get
end or something
more.
like that. But maybe.
Maybe.
But I think it's going to be very easy. I
Mhm.
think, and here's the other aspect of why I think it'll be easy. If you look at the Bat family, it's almost entirely red, with the
Mhm.
exception of TDK, Clayface, and Batman Beyond, who are green, and there's no blues whatsoever. Um, and when you limit a list like that, such that there's one Infinity missing entirely, like at some point they have to balance that by just making we're gonna see blue Wraith characters
Mhm.
in the thing. They have to, otherwise people won't be able to beat it at all. So it's not called the Nightmare event. We shouldn't expect it to
Yeah.
be that hard. So yeah, I think my expectations I'm putting them pretty low. I'm a guy who likes the stories that they do in these PvE events. I know a lot of people just kind of skip the screens and go through it. I think sometimes they do a good job. So I'm hoping for just like a cute little Batman story
Yeah.
that would be a nice thing to celebrate that day.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for it. I don't like. I'm somewhere on how many rebirth crystals we're gonna get. I'm like somewhere right there with Zubaz, where it's gonna be like one
I think it's gonna be
to as
5. I'm
far
gonna
as
call
being
5.
like it's gonna be five or
Okay.
5.
I
I'm calling
could see them
5.
giving 10 because it'd be like if they do this once a year. I could see this if it's doing once a year. It's just like one extra rebirth a year. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Like
I think we're gonna get a nice story where he goes through every rogue. We're gonna see Joker, Two-Face, Poison Ivy,
Okay.
Riddler, all that, and then that's gonna be
All right.
it.
So wait. So
I can
Zubaz,
also
what's
see
your
it being
guess? Wait.
5 though because it would go with the other 5.
I'm guessing 5. Costly, what's your guess? You can't say 5.
Okay, fine. I'm going 10.
10. All right, Zubaz.
Uh,
10. Okay.
I will double my previous. I will say a max of 2.
Okay, 2. All right. So we'll see who's right. It's gonna be 3. I have a feeling it's gonna be 3. But no, it's 5. It's 5. It's 5. It's gonna be 5. It's gonna be a nice. Gonna get 2 then 3. That's gonna be the little.
I guess more or less I want it to be 10 so that I can get to spoiler RB5
Yeah, you just.
faster.
I mean, everyone.
So-
I hope it's 20. But I think that we talked about everything we want to talk today. A long little episode here.
I do have one question real quick. Does
Mhm.
anybody remember when we got that message that was like you can never have enough Zatanna in November? Was that
what?
2019?
Wait,
Okay,
what
I'll
are
just,
you?
I'll
What are
just
you?
throw out what I'm thinking.
What are you talking about?
You don't remember that message that we got in game that was like you can never have enough Zatanna? It was in backwards, so it's like you had to read it like Zatanna, right? And
Where was this message in the mail?
it was
on Reddit.
no, it was in the mail.
Well, yeah,
It was
in the
mail,
mailing,
yeah.
but I mean, yeah, they put it kind of everywhere.
And it was just.
I
And what did I have zero memory of this.
So this was before. Was this before Rebirth came out?
hold on.
It was.
So I have it. I recently, not recently, but when I rebirth 5 Zatanna, I submitted it back to Reddit.
I literally have zero memory of there ever being anything like this.
Okay. I'll send you the link after. So this was
Yeah.
on October 3rd, 2018.
Okay.
2018.
And the
Okay, that
game
doesn't-
said
never mind.
something.
Game
Never-
sent out in the newsletter. It said, "Get Zatanna's magic in the PvP showdown."
So was she with the
Magic
PvP? She
brewing
was
in
the PvP too.
October. Yeah, and then so this is what they said. They said, as we get closer to the All Hallows Eve team challenge,
Okay.
Zatanna will definitely be someone you want to collect fragments of and upgrade for your roster. And then it ended with this, and you can never have too many in November.
That's nothing.
So, and then I think Rebirth came out not too long after that.
So that was their tease for possibly Rebirth.
But so what I was kind of where my thought was going with this to explain why I'm bringing this up, is I was thinking like maybe that fell into the timeline of like their big anniversary event they were gonna have, and then it got pushed because of COVID, so we're getting it this year. I was kind of hoping that like maybe like Zatanna would be the rework in November or something. You know what I mean? Like Zatanna EAGA or something in November.
Who knows?
And
Yeah,
then
maybe.
Yeah.
but like seeing that it was 2018, that doesn't really, unless you said it was October 2018, right? Yes, that doesn't.
October 2018.
That doesn't line up very well.
It was because there was an event. That was one of the first team challenge events that they had ever done. Remember, like now we have those like storyline events at the end of the month. Like we just had the Deadshot one.
Right.
That was like one of the first times that they had ever done that.
Okay.
I will say, well, I will say with that and Batman month and everything, I just got to give them a round of applause for everything they've done this year so far. This year's actually been pretty good in DCL. They've brought out the Nightmare Challenge. They brought out like this new Batman Day Challenge. They've brought out like the Bat CC rework. They've done a lot of things that are very interesting.
G12 will happen in November.
I think it's gonna happen in
November. I'm calling it.
I think Gear 12 is happening. Hopefully they listen to me. All right, that's.
But let's wrap it up there for us today. I mean, talked about a ton of stuff today. What do you think we're going to talk about next time?
It'll be a much shorter episode.
A little siege talk.
We'll talk about Siege. We might talk about.
We could celebrate Batman month a little bit more. Maybe talk about some like favorite Batman memories or things like that. We'll do something like that.
All right. I like it.
Siege, and then maybe a little bit more in depth. If any of us unlock Jace or anything by then, like we'll maybe have seen him in Siege too. So maybe a little bit more advice on that.
Or maybe we'll get someone on here who has Jason, then we can have them talk about it and something like that. But let's wrap it up there. I had a lot of fun. Thank you guys for hanging with us, and thank you guys for listening. If you're listening out there and watching on YouTube, we appreciate that. But that's gonna do for us. Anything you guys want to say before we leave? No,
I'm good.
We said a lot. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. All right, bye everybody.
Thank you for watching the Crime Alley Cast. Hit the like button and tell us what you thought of this episode in the comments below. And click the bell to never miss a future episode. If you want to catch us on the go, check out the audio version of the podcast, available on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify, and Podbean. Each of the hosts are also available live streaming DCL and other games throughout the week, and be sure to drop by and say hello. Links will be in the description below, and I'll see you next time.